Cause in the end it's like a default.
I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Today we're going to review a debut album by a band called Django Django. These guys are British. They do experimental psychedelic music. Really, I don't like calling it that though, because that makes me think of Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
And this really, while I'm sure there's some similars, probably mostly in the vocals. I don't really compare them to Pink Floyd at all. It's more something like Yaysayer, Hot Chip, that kind of thing.
Very 80s
right.
kind of electronic sound in,
right.
in the beats and instrumentals.
So this album has a very driving beat on every single track on this album. The first thing I noticed is a driving beat, also accented with claps. That's very popular now. I don't know if you guys have noticed this out there, but there's a lot of music out there using claps on lots of tracks to accent
in
beats.
electronic music, the clap kind of sample or sound is really starting to replace the function of a snare.
Yeah, for
Instead
sure.
of like a quick poppy sharp snare sound, you get these kind of clap sounds.
Yes, and usually you have like a moving synth line.
Yeah.
And then big driving guitars on this.
On this one though, everything's very separated.
Yes.
Everything, there's nothing really washing things together. It's very kind of cut and dry a lot of the time. I mean, there are exceptions, but for the most part.
Right. And then one other key feature of this sound is the harmonized vocals.
Yes.
Every single track has that typical British sound. Very, very nice, kind of mid-range vocals, perfectly harmonized.
Yeah, the writing of the harmonies actually kind of made me think of Beach Boys.
Yeah,
it's kind of strange. That's like the American counterpart, but it just had that feel for me.
Yep. And to tell you the truth, that was kind of a downfall for me, as I felt like they overdid the harmonies, the vocal harmonies.
I totally agree.
I think the vocals throughout this album are not varied enough. Every single track, they sound relatively the same. Now, I gotta say, this song, this album, to me, is all based around one song. It was a song we just sampled, loved it, decided just based on this one song. We loved this one song so much that we had to review this album, and it was track 3, Default. This is one of the most fun songs I think I've ever heard. It's one of my favorite tracks from 2012, so definitely check that track out. We'll put a link down there at our webpage so you can listen to it and check it out, because it's just an overall fun song. But, from there, the album just kind of establishes itself, kind of similar in structure to Light Ships, to where you have just these single musical ideas, a lot of repeating, a lot of atmosphere, good tracks and a solid sound, but the album just doesn't ever do anything different. Once you get an established sound, it doesn't ever break away from that. And therefore, I felt that the front half of this album was actually quite good, probably upper 70s, around an 80, but then the back half of the album just kind of repeated everything on the front half, so I was kind of just left going, meh.
Yeah.
It really brought it down for me.
It doesn't really go much of anywhere. They incorporate some cool guitar stuff, which is really appreciated.
Yeah.
I love the sound palette they use, but for me, actually, the thing that really killed it was the vocals.
Right.
And it was the performance of the vocals more than anything, because I actually really liked the writing and the harmonies. I liked the writing of the melodies. But then the way they were performed is just so lethargic, so just kind of flat. You barely ever get any energy out of the vocals. And when you have these quirky, crazy electronic stuff going on in the background, I feel like that kind of even, monotoned vocals doesn't really do a whole lot of good. We mentioned bands like Yaysayer and Hot Chip. Look at what their vocalists do. They're crazy, and it matches the music. And here, I just felt like there was a big disparity between the vocalist's attitude, which was just kind of sedated and and the instrumentals, which was very bright and fun. I just felt like that disconnect kind of killed it a little bit for me.
And I just kind of feel like a lot of these problems could really be solved if they just made the LP a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
It's like a 45-minute album. They could make it a 35, 37-minute album, and a lot of these problems would have been alleviated. Yes, it would have been a little bit shorter, but really, does that make any of the writing any worse? Would it be a worse listening experience? I actually think it would be a stronger listening experience, because you wouldn't be bored with it by the time you're done, and it would still be kind of a fresh sound.
It's about making a statement, and I think they'd make their statement more focused, more succinct, and stronger if they had done something like that.
Yeah. Well, overall, though, it is a good sound. It's
Yeah.
just, it's something that you can put on. It's catchy enough to really get you interested and groovy enough that it'll really make you want to just dance to
Yeah.
it. It's fun music at its core, and that's something that you have to appreciate when it's not just completely putrid. So, and I don't think this is a putrid sound
No.
at all. I actually think that these guys have a really good sound. I'm really interested to see where this goes, and just based off of default, I think that you have to like that song. I mean, I just want to party when I hear that song. I want to dance. I want to have a good time, and that it just makes me so happy. You know, it makes me so happy. So just on that alone, I like this album well enough to give. I'm gonna go 68.
I'm going to go 70.
Nice. So we're right in there, kind of upper 60s, comes out of 70. That indicates that this album has some real big strengths going for it, and just a couple things just kind of pulling the score down. So that's something to keep in mind when previewing this. Now, you guys might actually like this a lot, and that's totally cool. And we're pumped for you to be into music, because that's what it's all about, is your personal experience, not what two guys behind a camera say. We're just trying to give you an idea of what our opinions are for your entertainment. So let us know what you thought at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. As always, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. That's where we do a lot of our previewing, just based on conversations we have with our fans. You guys let us know what you're listening to and what you want us to review, and that really helps us from our ends, because we really want you guys to get a good experience out of this, because this is what we're doing. You guys get us into music, we get you into music, and it's a synergy you just can't beat. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Movie Music Critique Forward.
Take the